the way Octopussy starts out is she gets the Blofeld treatment, like straight up. She gets the From Russia with Love Blofeld treatment, where we don't see her. We just see her creatures, her aquatic creatures in the
her little Octopussy.
We see her little Octopussy, and that's where it's as McCurdy's pointed out numerous times, up to this point, pretty much every scene of a Bond movie is a reference to another Bond movie. But it's fun. Yeah. It's now we have this mysterious woman on this island that is populated exclusively by women, as he puts it, sexual discrimination. I'll have to check this out. And if you don't think about Gerudo Valley, you're crazy. But
even the fact that he wakes up, like I know it's not in that area, but the fact that I think about that when he wakes up and he's in the prison after he slept with the girl, I think of that part in Ocarina of Time. I know that's a aside, but
where do we rank the saw blade yo-yo?
That assassin?
As far as weapons.
Do you think his dad was poison string assassin guy? And he's like, fuck you, Dad. I don't want to kill people with boring poison. I want to kill them with a yo-yo saw blade. And he's like, no, son. Our people have been killing people with poison we've dripped into their mouths for centuries. And he's like, no, I'm special, Dad. I'm going to kill him with a yo-yo. It's a saw blade.
It is listed as thug with yo-yo.
Man. Another weak point for me was Bond's escape from the castle heading into the hunting scene. His grand escape plan, which you're like, oh, that's clever, man. You know, they're starting their hunting scheme and he's going to sneak off in a body bag. They take the body bag like 30 feet out the fucking door and just roll him, like they're going to roll him into a pile right next to the hunting party, and you're like, oh, okay. It seems like a clever idea, but then
all he had to do was play dead, and he was golden. But instead, he runs.
Yeah, scares him, and then he's right next to the hunting party.
He completely played himself. Yeah.
Hold on, I have a question though. This is one of the things that bugs me about the movie. When Bond is, sneaking around and listening to their plans and everything, he ends up in a room with two other dead bodies, which I don't think the movie ever explains why they're two dead bodies.
They do.
Do they?
Remember what's going on. Orlov shows up. Orlov meets up with Kamal Khan. And he's like, hey, Orlov, look at how awesome this fake jewelry is. And who's walking around in the background? It's those two guys. Those two guys are the forgers. They're the ones who created the fake jewelry. And Orlov says something like,
can they be trusted? I can assure you of their silence.
Can we trust them? And he's like, trust me, they're not going to be talking to anybody. And then that's when Turban Guy is like, hey.
I didn't notice that. No, I didn't notice anything.
Turban Guy's like,
everything taken care of?
As you ordered, Excellence.
I've taken care of that business you talked about. Well, the business was he murdered those two. But I said that in my whole run of the operation. Why kill those guys? What were they going to call Moscow and be like, we're blackmailing you? Or were they going to call the circus? Were they going to call Berlin? Like, why did you have to silence? Like, can you imagine how difficult it is to forge that stuff? You'd think Kamal Khan would want to keep those guys for the future. The Kamal Khan's whole business is selling fraudulent jewelry.
It feels like an idea that was in another draft of somebody else's stuff, and we got like that Blofeld scene where the guy, the two guys who made the radar tracker, and they were all excited. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna make it. We're gonna leave," and then they get blown up in the helicopter. Like, it feels like that was the intent, and then they either cut the scene or I don't know, something happened there.
Yeah.
But the thing I was gonna bring up was that, I always talk about how these movies after the sixth movie, they're always trying to take whatever's popular at the time. And I always get this wrong about this movie, is that every time I watch this movie, I think, oh, they must have borrowed from Temple of Doom. This movie precedes Temple of Doom. This movie came out a year before that movie. So this makes me wonder, did Spielberg and Lucas see this movie and were like, oh, like we should do stuff that's also in this movie, such as like the goat head or, the creepy palace and all that kind of stuff. Like, it feels very reminiscent.
Yeah. We already know that Spielberg not only has somewhat been attached to previous iterations of Bond, but also that he puts Bond references in his own movies, including casting Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Wrong corner.
But this movie takes place came out a year before it, so
Octopussy.
it's not